Brookville was a charming town located in the heart of America, where everyone knew each other, and the community thrived on warmth and connection. Among the town's beloved couples were Mathew and Brittany Carter, whose love story was known to all the folks. High school sweethearts, they had grown up together, dreaming of a future filled with joy and adventure. Their wedding was the talk of the town, a celebration of love under the sprawling oak trees of Brookville Park. Brittany, radiant in her white dress, and Mathew, dashing in his military uniform, promised each other a lifetime of love and loyalty. The townsfolk cheered them on, convinced that their bond was unbreakable. Life was idyllic for the newlyweds. They settled into a cozy cottage at the edge of town, where Brittany tended a beautiful garden, and Mathew worked tirelessly, eager to build a home filled with love. They shared laughter, dreams, and whispered secrets under the starry skies of Brookville. They were known for their spontaneous picnics by the lake, dancing in the rain, and quiet nights cuddled up with books and movies. Their love story was an envy to many, filled with playful teasing and tender moments. The Carters were inseparable, their connection deepened by shared experiences and unwavering support for one another. However, the serene days of their marriage were soon interrupted by the call of duty. Mathew, dedicated to serving his country, received orders to deploy overseas. Supportive yet apprehensive, Brittany encouraged him to follow his calling, promising to keep their home fires burning bright. As Mathew left for Iran, the couple clung to their love, confident that distance and time could not diminish their bond. They exchanged letters and video calls, each conversation a lifeline that kept them connected despite the miles that separated them. Brookville rallied around Brittany, offering support and companionship, ensuring she never felt alone. Months passed, and the challenges of deployment began to weigh heavily on Mathew. The rigors of military life and the constant threat of danger took their toll. But it was the whispers of doubt that truly haunted him, as the bad cell service had limited his ability to be in constant communication with his beloved wife. One fateful day, a fellow soldier, whose wife was friends with Brittany, approached Mathew with unsettling news. "Hey Matt, I need to talk to you," the soldier said, a serious expression on his face. "I heard some things about Brittany. Things you should know." Mathew's heart sank as the soldier revealed that Brittany had taken up exotic dancing in his absence. The revelation was a blow to Mathew's trust. Torn between duty and personal turmoil, Mathew tried to reach Brittany, but communication was sporadic, and his fears festered in the silence. Finally, he managed to get a call through. Brittany answered, her voice filled with a mix of relief and tension. "Mathew, I've missed you so much." Mathew's voice was tight with controlled anger. "Brittany, I heard some things. I need to know if they're true. Are you dancing at a club?" There was a moment of stunned silence on the other end before Brittany responded, her voice rising with defensive fervor. "No, Mathew, that's ridiculous. Who told you that? I'm home, patiently waiting for you with each passing moment." Mathew's grip on the phone tightened. "A friend of mine heard it from his wife. They're saying you're spending time with other men." "Are you lying to me, Brittany?" Brittany's voice cracked with emotion. "Mathew, I swear to you it's not true. I'm doing everything I can to keep things together here. Please, you have to believe me." After he was done talking with Brittany, he felt very assured and convinced it must all be a rumor. He had nothing to worry about, and Mathew dismissed the claims. "You must be mistaken. Brittany would never do something like that. I know her better than anyone," he said as he reassured his soldier friend. "I'm sure it's just women talk," he added. The soldier looked doubtful but didn't press further. Mathew clung to his conviction, refusing to believe his beloved Brittany could betray him. Their love had always been strong, and he couldn't imagine her straying from their commitment. Several weeks later, the Army granted Mathew a brief holiday, allowing him to spend 2 precious weeks at home. When he arrived back in Brookville, Brittany greeted him at the airport, her eyes shining with happiness and relief. They spent their time together reconnecting and reaffirming their love. They laughed, shared stories, and enjoyed the simple pleasures of being a family again. During those 2 weeks, Mathew didn't mention the soldier's accusations. He chose to trust Brittany, believing that their love was stronger than any rumors. As his leave drew to a close, they promised to stay strong and keep their bond unbroken. Returning to Iran, Mathew felt rejuvenated by his time at home. However, the specter of doubt lingered at the edges of his mind. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a fellow soldier approached him with a look of concern. "Matt, I hate to bring this up, but you need to see this," the soldier said, handing over his phone. "These pictures are all over Facebook." Matthew's blood ran cold as he saw the photos. Brittany in revealing outfits, dancing at a club. The images were stark and undeniable. His world tilted on its axis, the foundation of his trust crumbling beneath him. Feeling a surge of anger and betrayal, Mathew logged onto Facebook and sent Brittany a message, trying to mask his hurt with calm words. "Brittany, I saw the photos. What's really going on?" Brittany responded defensively. "Maddie, it's not what you think. I went to the club for a childhood friend's party. She insisted I come, and it was a one-time thing. I didn't want to hurt her feelings. I got so drunk and had more fun than I intended. I didn't even know about those photos," she wrote, her words filled with remorse. Matthew's anger softened as he read her explanation. He took a deep breath, his fingers hovering over the keyboard before he typed his response. "I'm sorry, Britt. I should have trusted you. This deployment has me on edge, and I let my fears get the best of me." Brittany's reply was immediate, her relief palpable. "It's okay, Mathew. I understand. I just want us to be strong for each other. I miss you so much." Mathew felt a wave of guilt for doubting her. "I miss you too, Brittany. More than you know. Let's put this behind us and focus on our future." "Agreed," Brittany replied. "I love you, Maddie. Come home safe." "I love you too," Mathew responded, feeling a renewed sense of commitment to their relationship. The doubt that had plagued him began to dissipate as he smiled warmly to himself. 2 years later, Mathew Carter had lost all contact with Brittany for 2 long years. He had been part of a secret mission, one that kept him isolated from the world he knew and the people he loved. Now, finally back in Brookville, he was eager to reunite with Brittany. His friend and fellow soldier, Mark, was giving him a ride home. "I know she's going to be so happy to see me," Mathew said to Mark as they pulled up to the familiar neighborhood. "A very peaceful and sunny afternoon in Brookville." "Yeah, it's nice to have someone special waiting for you," Mark replied, casting a knowing smile. "She must have missed you a lot." "I don't know how I went by those 2 lonely years without her," Mathew said, his voice tinged with both excitement and nervousness. Mathew decided to surprise Brittany by going directly to her favorite spot in Brookville, the lakeside park where she spent every Saturday afternoon. "Shouldn't you be going home first?" Mark asked, raising an eyebrow. "No, she goes to the park every Saturday. I'm going to surprise her there," Mathew said with a grin. "There's a spot she normally sits at. It's her favorite spot." As they approached the park, the familiar sight of the lake and the lush greenery brought back a flood of memories. Mathew and Brittany had spent countless weekends here, sharing dreams and planning their future. "I can't wait to see her face," Mathew said, his excitement bubbling over. "Turn up here." They parked the car, and Mathew scanned the park, looking for Brittany. He spotted her sitting on their favorite bench, her back to him. With a spring in his step, he walked toward her, eager to see her smile. Just then, he noticed a man sitting next to her. They were close, too close. Brittany laughed at something the man said, and then he leaned in, kissing her gently. Mathew felt his heart shatter into a million pieces. "I risk my life to provide for her. And while I'm overseas dodging bullets and praying that I make it home alive, this is what she's doing?" Mathew whispered, his voice thick with betrayal. "Mathew, I'm so sorry," Mark said, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You need to talk to her." Mathew took a deep breath, trying to steady his emotions. He pulled out his phone and dialed Brittany's number. She answered after the first ring. "Hello?" she said, her voice filled with surprise. "Hey, honey," Mathew said, trying to keep his voice calm. "Mathew? How are you?" Brittany asked, sounding confused. "I'm okay. Are you okay?" Mathew replied, his eyes fixed on her as she spoke. "Yeah, I'm fine, baby. Where are you?" Brittany asked. "Same place I am every Saturday. You know I love to come by the lake," she said, her voice faltering slightly. "Yeah, I know how much you love the lake. Are you alone?" Mathew asked, his heart pounding. "Yes," she lied. "Where are you?" "I'm with the boys. We just got back to camp. I'm finally coming home next month. It's been 2 agonizing years, Britt," Mathew said, clenching his fist. "Yes, it has been 2 very long years, Maddie, and I can't wait to see you. I miss you so much," Brittany said, her voice trembling. "I couldn't wait to see you either," Mathew said, his anger boiling over. "I'm finally back, baby." "That's great. It's so nice to hear from you after so long," she asked, sounding genuinely surprised. "I thought I'd surprise you. Where are you?" Mathew asked, his voice growing colder. "Not the lake, baby," he said, his eyes narrowing. "Which lake are you at?" "The same one that you're at," Mathew said, stepping closer. "What? Tell me where you are and I'll come find you," Brittany said, panic creeping into her voice. "It's okay. I already found you. Look up," Mathew said, standing just a few feet away. Brittany looked up, her face going pale as she saw him. She scrambled to her feet, her eyes wide with fear. "Can we please talk about this, Mathew? It's just a friend from a new job I got," she pleaded. "Do you hug and kiss all your friends from work?" Mathew asked, his voice laced with sarcasm. "Baby, please let's just talk about this," Brittany begged, tears streaming down her face. "There's nothing to talk about. I want a divorce," Mathew said, his voice cold and final. "Please, let me explain," Brittany cried. "You can explain to my lawyer," Mathew said, turning away. "I would have given my life for you. After everything I've done for you, the sacrifices, this is what you do. This is how you repay me." "Mathew, please," she sobbed, reaching out to him. "Look closely," he said, his voice breaking. "Scary now, isn't it? Are you all right, man?" Mark asked, stepping forward. "I'll be good. Let's just go," Mathew said, his voice hollow. They drove away from the park, the weight of betrayal heavy on Mathew's shoulders. As they pulled up to his home, Mathew noticed something he hadn't expected. A small child, a boy, stood at the front door, his eyes wide with curiosity. "Who's that?" Mathew asked, his heart pounding. "That's your son, Mathew," Mark said quietly. "His name is Aiden. Brittany had him while you were away. She called me when she couldn't get a hold of you after she gave birth. He's 14 months old." Mathew's world spun. He got out of the car and approached the boy, who looked up at him with wide, innocent eyes. "Hey there, buddy," Mathew said softly, kneeling down to the child's level. The boy reached out, touching Mathew's face with a tiny hand. Mathew felt tears well up in his eyes. As he held his son for the first time, a mix of emotions surged through him: love, confusion, and the unbearable weight of the betrayal he had just witnessed. He knew the road ahead would be difficult, but as he looked into his son's eyes, he found a glimmer of hope. Later that night, Mathew tried to come to terms with the revelation of his son, Aiden, whom he hadn't known existed. The joy of holding his son was tempered by the gnawing doubt and betrayal he'd felt at the park. That night, Mathew couldn't sleep, his mind racing with questions about Brittany's fidelity and the stories he'd heard over the past 2 years. The next morning, while Brittany was out, Mathew decided to search for answers. He logged onto her computer and scrolled through her Facebook messages, emails, and any other correspondence he could find. The more he delved, the more his worst fears were confirmed. There were countless messages from men, some of them explicit, confirming that Brittany had been working as a stripper and engaging in relationships with multiple partners. The evidence was undeniable. Mathew found receipts from the club where she worked, photos, and even messages discussing payments. His heart sank as he realized that everything his soldier friends had told him 2 years earlier was true. Brittany had betrayed him in the worst possible way. Feeling a surge of anger and betrayal, Mathew confronted Brittany when she returned home. "Brittany, I know everything. I found the messages, the photos, the receipts. You lied to me," Brittany's face went pale. Mathew, I can explain. Explain what? That you've been sleeping with other men? That you've been lying to me for years? I'm done. I want a divorce, Mathew said, his voice cold and final. Brittany's eyes filled with tears. Please, Mathew, let's talk about this. We can work through it. No, Brittany, you've crossed a line that can't be undone. We're done, Mathew said, turning away from her. The divorce proceedings were swift and bitter. Mathew and Brittany sat on opposite sides of the courtroom, their lawyers presenting their cases. The judge listened carefully, understanding the deep wounds that needed healing. The final blow came when a DNA test was ordered for Aiden, their 14-month-old son. The results were read aloud in the courtroom, the tension palpable. In the case of Carter versus Carter, pertaining to 3-month-old Aiden, Mr. Carter, you are not Aiden's father. Mathew felt his world crumble once more. He had bonded with Aiden, despite the circumstances, and now even that connection was shattered. Brittany sobbed uncontrollably, the weight of her actions crashing down on her. The judge granted Mathew the divorce, citing Brittany's infidelity and deception. As the gavel came down, signaling the end of their marriage, Mathew walked out of the courtroom, a free but broken man. In the following months, Mathew tried to rebuild his life. He threw himself into work, trying to forget the pain of the past 2 years. But the memories of his love for Brittany, the betrayal, and the loss of Aiden haunted him. One evening, as he sat alone in his cottage, his phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Mathew, there's something you need to know. It's about Brittany and Aiden. Meet me at the lakeside park tomorrow at noon. It's urgent. Mathew's heart raced. Who was this mysterious messenger? What more could there be to know? As he looked out at the setting sun, a sense of foreboding settled over him. He knew that whatever lay ahead would change his life once again. To be continued. Stay tuned for part 2. The story of Mathew Carter isn't over. Will he find out who is Aiden's father? What secrets are yet to be uncovered? Stay tuned for part 2 of Mathew's journey, where new revelations and challenges await.